Hey guys, Robert here, and I got with me a different person for a guest on this time. I have with me James. How do you say your last name? I should have asked you before we started.
It's Spanos. Essentially,
Spanos,
it's Spanos, but everybody says Spanos in
right?
Americanized Greek, I
Yep,
guess.
yep. You're the head guy of Wormwood Studios. You've done games like Primordia. You've worked on games like The Cat Lady,
Hmm.
Downfall. And just recently, Strangeland.
Hmm.
So, adventure games have been one of your main fortes. So, what interests you so much about adventure games?
I think, and this is always what classes me with the elitists, I guess, of that genre. Is I feel like adventure games are like these wonderful stories, all of them, even the
Hmm.
worst like puzzle,
Right.
ridiculed adventure has amazing story.
Hmm.
And then the designers, I feel like, are very stuck into like this, I have to make the puzzles hard, how else can I
Oh,
give gameplay.
yeah.
And
The moon logic puzzles.
yeah, and I don't personally come into adventures like Siberia
Hmm.
and others, like, I'm like, oh my god, it better have good puzzles because I don't care about the animatronic scenario, like all I want is the puzzles. I never come into that with
No,
that
if you want
mindset.
that, go to a puzzle game.
Yeah, I'd figure you'd play like a straight up puzzle game like Baba Is You, like Portal, etc. Like you would play
Yeah.
something along those lines instead of playing an adventure game. I
Yeah,
do
exactly.
understand that, the logic behind wanting to have puzzles, and I want,
Hmm.
to give some sort of like, challenge to the player.
You want it to be
I
a
just
game still. You don't want it to just be an interactive movie. You want it to actually still be a game, in other words.
Yeah, yeah, of course, but I'm okay with it being an interactive movie provided it's a
True.
good movie.
Okay, that's true. That is true. That is true. So, what would you say some of your favorite adventure games growing up, and what are your biggest influences?
Mm. Well, whenever I'm asked this question, there's always one answer. I would say my favorite game ever has to be Minecraft 2 LeChuck's Revenge.
Yep, Monkey Island, one of my favorites as well. And oh, let me ask, what do you prefer? What's the ending? Do you have an explanation to that ending?
Not really. I've always like, I've searched on this and I've thought like, what if it's this? I don't know if they ever had an idea in their minds, like when they were making it. I don't even think that was the case. I think they were just making it up as they go, in a
Mm-hmm.
sense. I mean, Uh, okay, I love Minecraft 2 specifically because it has like this traversing from one place to the other,
Mm-hmm.
and I always
Very
thought,
open
oh my
world.
god, yeah, oh my god, that's amazing design. And then I
Mm-hmm.
sit down and play the special edition, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna play it with commentary, and I
Mm-hmm.
open the commentary, and the first thing they say is, so we made the game, and then that's Ron Gilbert speaking supposedly,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, me, Schaefer, and Grossman decided to make the puzzles with the biggest backtracking possible between them. Which is funny because you think as a player, oh my god, this game is awesome. You don't mind the back, the
Yeah.
back and forth. I didn't mind it. I thought it was genius. But it's funny how they were like literally saying, let's make it the longest distance between from one puzzle to the other.
Which is true, and I do like it how you need all three islands to solve a puzzle on one island. You don't. It's not like you can solve all of them on with just one island. No, no, you have to go
Yeah,
to
yeah,
all
you
of
have
them.
to go back to booty to fat, etc. You just go back and forth and back and forth,
Hmm.
which is fine. I think I love the Tri Island area. I think it's a wonderful map. I love that game. I played it like this summer again after like 3 years, which is
Oh,
like my
I do it once a
summer.
year. I always play Monkey Island once a year.
I tried to, but I failed last 2 years. But
Uh,
I did it this year and it was awesome. Still a great game. Still loved it.
I think why the backtracking is all right is because it's fast. It is very fast backtracking still. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
gonna still
it's not
backtrack, but
annoying.
it's not like every single time you have to go through the red line going to each island. It's like no, just the first time, and then afterwards
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the big difference between other games because you know how people complain about backtracking. It's like here it's fast. Moves fast on the map. As slow as he is when he's on the main screen, but even then there's not that much between A to B. You get to Captain Dread, boom to the other island, boom.
Yeah, pretty much. It's really fast, and the thing is, I think the basic genius of Mind Island is that all the no-nos are there. Like,
Hmm.
Moon Logic is there, for example,
Monkey wrench.
the yeah, the Minecraft, exactly. But the thing is that that puzzle only works in Monkey Island universe, nowhere else. Like,
Exactly. But it also
it's
works only if you know what a monkey wrench is. If you don't, like if
oh, I
it's like some
didn't.
of the other languages, it's like
Yep, you get stuck. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a monkey wrench when I was playing, because I was like, a Greek guy playing the game, didn't
right.
know much in English, and whatever questions I'd have, I'd be like, okay, let's go to the English class and be like, let's ask that. Let's ask, what this means.
Yep.
And so when I found out the monkey wrench puzzle literally by accident,
Hmm.
I asked, and they said, well, that's how you call a wrench. And I'm like, okay, well, didn't know that, but no,
Specifically a
it's
wrench you
funny.
use for plumbing, of course.
Yeah, yeah, of course. But the thing is that all these puzzles and everything is like, all these no-nos, all these mistakes that the game
Hmm.
has, the charm that it has, like the humor and the charm, or in general, and the soul of the game is like so good.
Hmm.
And everything that is bad is negated by the good part of the game, I
Definitely.
think.
And
And the
that's why
music is
when
amazing.
there are some games where they have frustrating puzzles and the writing is not that good. Those are the infamous ones where, oh yeah, they have a story to tell, but maybe they could have told it better, and then you add in frustrating puzzles. Yeah, that's an element for disaster.
Yeah,
Then
that's
you
been
have,
my problem with Siberia specifically. Like,
mm, yep.
yeah, phenomenal story. Like, that story deserves to be a movie. It's like so Edward Scissorhands, which I grew
Hmm.
up with, and it
Oh,
has
good
like that.
movie, damn good movie.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal movie, and it has like that magic charm of, like, of decadence, essentially, because this town
Hmm.
lived by the animatronic factory, and now
Hmm.
there's nothing there. Um, and I just wish they would have said, let's not make this puzzle that ridiculous. Let's just, we
Right.
have a story, because we have a story. Let's focus on the story a bit more.
Hmm.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
okay.
but
I
then you
think
have,
it's a great
sorry.
game regardless. Sorry,
Yep,
I
and then
got
you have
you.
games with some too much story, like The Longest Journey, where you could spend hours almost within the first area just talking to people. And if you're a person who likes dialogue trees, you're gonna be there forever.
Yep. If you're trying to exhaust the dialogue trees, it's gonna be a while. Yeah, it's a great game regardless. I
Oh, it
think I
is,
think a lot
yeah.
of people don't get the charm of the longest journey. I don't think it's the quintessential adventure. I think it's
No, not really.
definitely, it should be on the top 10. I'm really glad that lately people are like playing the Blade Runner adventure game, and they're like, "Oh
Oh
my god,
yeah.
this is awesome."
Yep. So thank God GOG was able to get that, and then I can't wait for the remaster.
Yeah, me too. And the funny thing is that I know a guy called Captain Nemo, and he's always like, before this, the scam port happened, he was like, find it pirated because it was nowhere at the time, and he's like, play this game. It's so good. It's like the best adventure game I've ever played. And I tried it, and I of course pirated it. I mean, legitimately found the game. Uh, yeah, and it's awesome. And I'm like, please let me pay you. Like, why is this not available? And thank goodness they got to this point, and now I own the legitimate copy. But
Yep.
it's such a great
And I'm gonna
game.
double down for it once the remaster comes out.
Oh, definitely. Like, it's one of the most awaited things for me right now. Like,
And the
I'm
fact that it
waiting for this.
fits in there, it's a licensed game, but it's one of those licensed games that fits as a side story that you're hearing about the main stories happening out, like in regular dialogue.
Yeah, and I think out of all the and that might be like a stretch, but right now I can't think of a better game licensed from a movie that
Hmm.
has ever been made. Like, it's probably one of the top five
Oh, definitely, it's one
licensed
of the top five.
games. Yeah, like there might be something I'm
Monkey
forgetting, but
Island, not Monkey. I mean, Back to the Future. Back to the Future, I put
yeah,
up
but
there.
yeah, that's pretty up there. But yeah, definitely Blade Runner. It's like,
Definitely.
yeah, I don't know if that game flopped when it came out or something, or like
I
they didn't.
think it was just adventure games were winding down by that point.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So now, was your first big game that you did on your own, Primordia? First of all, I love that game. It's so clever. Just so much of the
Yeah,
ideas, the twists and everything, the choices you make. I really like that, especially how there's some choices where you don't realize, oh, great, you just screwed up getting the golden ending.
yep. I think when I first played Primoria, I was like, this game is boring. That's when I came to the pro. I'm like, this game is not gonna be good. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
thought. I'm like, this game, I'd be happy if that game like sold and made me like 5K
Mm-hmm.
dollars like a year. That's what I thought. And honestly, like as I was playing the game, I also said to Mark, the writer, that I don't want to be spoiled anything in the game. So I
Right.
knew as much as I had implemented, but I came to dislike. I dislike Horatio. I think Horatio is very nihilistic for my taste. Like he's
Fair
very
enough.
dark.
That's fair enough.
But then I found out that there's this legend, this hero of the story, the actual character that
Mm-hmm.
we should be praising, which is Crispin, who I love to the death. I think he's
Oh,
a
I
wonderful
love
character.
Crispin. Abe Goldfarb, love his acting in anything he's done.
Oh yeah, and I remember
And
we were
I'm
having
a
this.
floating bomb.
Discussion with Dave, and we had another actor for
Mm-hmm. I
for
think he
for
mentioned that in
for
the
Crispin.
commentary.
Yeah, we had a different actor, and we had problems with deciding on things on the Primordia voice acting, even though it ended up amazing. But we didn't really focus on having a proper discussion with Dave.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like three people having a different opinion, and then Dave having a different opinion, and it was really difficult to like you
Yeah, I
know
bet.
yeah, go with that. So we changed that with Strangeland, so that was much easier. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
so he comes to me and he goes, I really think Abe should be for Crispin, he says to me. And I go, I haven't listened to any of the auditions. And I go, I don't think any of the other people will veto this, but if Abe is not doing a good job, I didn't know Abe at the time or
Mm-hmm.
his talents. I go, I think I'm gonna veto this one if he's not good. And so I listened to all the auditions and I didn't know who was doing what. And the first one I click is Abe, and I listened to it and I'm like, oh my god, that's Crispin. And I just did never listen to the other ones. Never. I didn't click the other ones. I
Oh,
just said, let's get this guy, which is really funny because for Strangeland, where Abe is also starring and he's doing a phenomenal job.
yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah, we his first auditions were really problematic. Like we
Oh.
didn't explain Abe's auditions. We didn't explain the character properly to him, and the delivery was not good. Like I'm not saying he's a bad one. We just didn't
All right. Right.
communicate this one properly, and we almost actually went with somebody else. And Dave was like, no. Like he stomped his foot on the ground and he's like, no, this should go to Abe. He can do it. I know he can do it. And it's funny how we almost had a fallout with
Oof.
that. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I've spoken about this publicly before.
Mm-hmm.
And and then Mark goes, hey, can I have a talk with Abe for like have a phone call. I don't know what happened on that phone call to
Mm-hmm.
this day. But Abe's auditions went from like mediocre to absolutely phenomenal. There's not a single line I hate. I've
Mm-hmm.
listened to all of them. He's amazing. I've apologized to him. Like we had a launch party. I told him I'm really
Mm-hmm.
sorry that we dragged you. We said we wouldn't go with you. And to this day, I think it would have been such a shame not to have Abe. Like
Mm-hmm.
the game would have been less. I feel
Right. I mean,
without
but I
Abe's
don't blame you
performance.
either, though. I mean, if his if initial auditions weren't that good, I mean, yeah, it's one of those cases where sometimes the actor, if they're coming up with what they think is for it, not what I mean that might not always match. So sometimes, not
Yeah,
always, you need to tell them what. Yeah.
of course, but I think it's also like I think
Mm-hmm.
we should have known better, knowing how talented Abe is. And I told
Mm-hmm.
him, I said this to him, and I said, I
Mm-hmm.
promise you, any future projects you want to do a character, no matter how bad it is, like no matter like I'm never gonna doubt you, like ever. Like
Mm-hmm.
his performance has been phenomenal for Strangeland. Honestly, he's carrying the entire game, and a
Yeah,
lot of people have
definitely.
praised that too. Like even people that didn't like the game that have said like it wasn't for me. It wasn't like my cup of tea. But Abe's performance pretty great.
Yep.
So
Definitely. That right off the bat, I mean, especially once you hear the super ego on the phone and you're just hearing that, it's like, same guy, but sounding very different. It's like,
yeah, that's the thing. It's like usually it's very comical when that happens. You're like, oh come on,
no, that
but
would, for me, that felt actually genuine, like, what the hell?
yeah, like it has that. And in general, I keep forgetting. I watch like streams of people playing the game, and I forget that all these characters in the later part of the game, it's like all of them are Abe, and I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, okay.
Oh
But
yeah, cause yeah, I mean, I've only seen heard a sample of him from the other Wanjidai games, and even that, and you hear some of his range, but you don't hear all of it like you do here.
no, he's really, he's I mean, again, like this is where Dave came in and he knew that Abe could pull it off, and we just didn't
Hmm.
know because for us, Abe was like the guy that played sidekicks, in a funny way.
Yep, he was Joey, he was
Yeah,
Crispin, he
and
was.
and of course, yeah,
Yep.
and of course, Joy has like some lines, especially Epiphany, no spoilers,
Hmm.
where it's like more serious, but it wasn't ever like dark, like the darkness
Right.
that Strangeland has, where it's like dark and mean and hateful. And it's funny how he delivers that, and I wonder if we actually caused him those feelings. That's why they
Oof,
came after us.
I hope.
I hope
I don't
not.
think. I don't think so.
He's an excellent human being. I've
Hmm.
spoken with him. He's wonderful. I love him
Yep.
to the death. Anyway, no
Right.
more fanboyism. He's against it.
Right. Right. But yeah, but when you look at Primordia and you look at Strangeland, very different games.
Mm-hmm.
And one is more of a straightforward, well, relatively straightforward, A to B, guy goes on his journey. Strangeland is one of those, what the heck am I doing? But in a good way. You're like, it's like one of those games where and again, I'm saying this with all praise. It's one of those games where you're fumbling around trying to figure out what the heck's going on here. And then when you do, you find out, like, oh, 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 maybe I shouldn't have found out. Oh, ooh, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
things are going very weird in Strangeland, of course. Yeah, they're very different, and honestly, I think, I mean, there was an attempt to make a cyberpunkish kind of game in the
Hmm.
same universe as Primordia. However, that hasn't happened yet. That's Cloudscape. That didn't happen yet,
Right?
and anyway, like production issues happened with other projects before Strangeland, and Strangeland came in and it was like, oh, let's make a game for an adventure game jam. Let's make another game together, guys. And I knew, I was like, I said it back then, and there's a message, a mail I sent to Mark where I said I'm clearing my schedule for the next 4 years because I knew that was gonna be the case.
Hmm.
It's how both Mark and Victor both work in their
Yeah.
games.
And from what I remember reading and hearing in the commentary, you mentioned that you actually improved a lot of things on the AGS engine for the game.
Yep, I mean it's funny because we started the game with like the idea to go to Unity, and then Victor says, "Hey, let's go to AGS because I want to tamper with some scenes," which he honestly didn't tamper anyway. But 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 it's funny that that happened, but that's
Right.
okay. But we got stuck with it, and very early on I thought, how do I make this game not look like any or sound like any AGS game, because I
Hmm.
wanted to like let go of that, oh my god, this is made in AGS, I don't want to play that, because a lot of people treat Primordia that way, which is
Oh, really? Oh,
I know, but it happens, and I'm like,
right. No,
I
I know.
think
I know. So
a
many
great
people are just so used to Unity that it's like they won't accept anything besides that or one of those other engines. But something like AGS, it's like AGS. There's a reason why it's been used in so many games.
No, truly, and Dave loves the engine to the death,
Hmm.
and I think Unabout is a great example of how, a game made in an engine that is old and has like all these relics, like can actually be look like it's not made in that
Oh
engine,
yeah.
like so Unabout and Whispers of the Machine were a great inspiration to stop step away from the AGS. So the
Hmm.
first thing I did, of course, is have the gradient. That was from
Hmm.
Whispers of the Machine. They have a gradient text, and I'm like, okay, That's a great
Mm-hmm.
idea. Another thing was increase the resolution, which Dave did already for Unavowed.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing even higher now. He's going to 2K for Old Skies,
Ooh.
uh, which I'm not sure if that's gonna be plausible in the engine, but I think it is. But I mean, it's gonna work out. And I told him that there are ways to fix, all the relics that exist. So if
Mm-hmm.
it comes to that, I'll help him out. But
Right.
he has no problems as of this moment, so
Mm-hmm.
that's fine. Um, but that was one thing, and another thing was I wanted to make it 60 frames per second, which didn't end up happening because by the moment I realized it should have been 60 frames per second, we
Mm-hmm.
already had way more than half the game done. So I'd
Right.
have to rewire the entire game to make it 60 because it's not like 80, so it's like double, just
Right. Right.
double speed everything. It's like 1.6. So yeah, that didn't work out as well. But one of the things I wanted to do was the low pass filter. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I'm gonna have a low pass filter, and I was so hell bent on that. Nobody wanted it. Like Mark didn't say anything about it. Victor was like, "Oh, that sounds okay," but
Mm-hmm.
nobody really wanted it. So I spent a lot of time on that, and I'll tell you, audio coding is not as simple as it should be.
Oh, I
Uh,
bet. I bet. And this is coming from a guy who has no experience with adventure game making, but just hearing that, I'm like, yeah, I bet not.
Yeah, so that took a while. Another thing we did for Strangeland, which I'm really proud of, is the custom save game system, which means that no matter how many times I'm gonna update the game, you can still play it. In fact, you
Good.
can
Good.
play it on every different system, like including wink wink, maybe a switchboard wink wink.
Maybe a Switch, maybe iOS.
Yeah, so every save game is compatible with every
Oh,
version.
good. That is good.
Yeah.
Just good lord, do we know how when AGS updates? Oh, your save games don't work. What?
Yeah, yeah, that's a thing, which is really nice because Dave always was has been, and rightfully so. Like, don't change something that is working, like don't change it because, you know, he doesn't want to wake up and see like 20 emails, 20 posts of like people
Oh
having
yeah, no kidding.
problems.
No, given how when you look into some of the stuff, like when he had, whenever he would do updates for like Blackwell and everything,
Mm-hmm.
then he would always be like, ah, great, like the
Mm-hmm.
leash, that dreaded dog leash. You've probably heard him rant about that before. That how, oh, they got an update. Oh crud! No, the way I did the leash, I have to do a new way.
Yep.
He
Yep.
doesn't want a repeat of that stuff, but I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
So, now now besides Primordial and all that stuff, you've also worked on doing the interface for games like by Harvester games like Downfall and Cat Lady. Not
Yep.
Lorelei though. I take it you were busy with Strangeland by that point.
No, I mean that too, but also
Uh,
Rem didn't contact me at the
ah,
time. So he went with Unity, which I think is a great idea.
mm-hmm.
I mean, he really developed the game there, which he had fun, I'm
Right.
sure. Um, the main reason for Downfall, I fixed the interface issues. The
Mm-hmm.
interface was already there, and he asked me if I could fix the interface. Like it
Mm-hmm.
had like some clipping issues, and I fixed that.
Right.
For Cat Lady at the time, I was working. I was doing that job I told you about, like one
Mm-hmm.
year of hell,
Yeah.
10 minutes a day, barely looking at the AJS forum.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I want to do this interface where I can just,
Do it one-handed.
yeah, one-handed. And it's funny how a lot of games have actually, how he popularized that interface, like where
True. That
you,
is true.
yeah, I look back at it now and I'm like, people play other games and they go, that's the Cat Lady interface, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's the first game that did that. I think he
I think it was
popularized
the
it.
first AGS game that popularized it.
Oh, definitely. But
I don't know
Backbone
about any
has the
regular
same.
games, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Backbone has that interface, for example. A lot
Hmm.
of games use that interface where it's like character walks left and right, and
Yeah.
he doesn't
You just
walk
do
anything.
up or down and all that.
Yeah, yeah. Just or horizontal or vertical movement, but
Hmm.
not like 3D like adventures. I think it's really nice. A funny thing is that he said he did that because he didn't want to draw the legs.
Yeah,
So
now that you mention it, I don't recall seeing many legs except for certain parts, like you see a body being pulled out of that van, for example.
yeah,
Otherwise, yeah, not that many legs.
yeah, which is really nice. I think that's a good thing. But I only coded the interface on
Hmm.
what he wanted essentially. Like I think I
Right,
had very minimal output uh,
right,
on Cat Lady, which is thankful because that was his game, and I'm glad
right. And good
it
lord, I've
became
been playing through that today. It is a pretty trippy.
dark game. One would
Yep.
say. I mean, that game doesn't. I mean, the less it's it's a game, of course, but the thing that really makes it difficult for me to I have played it like once but never twice is that this is very inspired by his life, like the
Oh,
not sure if you've
really?
got yeah like not sure if you've got into. I'm not gonna spoil anything.
I'm
But
almost done with it.
oh, okay.
I just got through meeting up with Joe from Downfall,
Oh,
across the
okay.
hall. So I'm just getting the last two rooms in the flat before I get into the final act. So,
Oh, okay. So the nurse part specifically, he
hmm.
used to work as a male nurse.
Ah,
Yeah. So and it was horrible, and he would contact me.
hmm.
He would type to me on Skype while he was at work, and it was really horrible for him. And a lot of inspiration from the game came from his wife, who was severely depressed at the time. Uh,
Ooh, I
yeah.
kind of got that feel and getting that feeling when playing it because it's like really gets a handle on women that are depressed and all that. I mean, to the point where I've been to. I don't know if you know the website TV Trope, but under their crowning moment of awesome, they say under a meta push it says these two ladies written by a guy. Would you believe that? And it's like
Mhm.
that's how
Yeah.
well people feel. Like, you don't usually get that in the crowning moment of awesome. So for someone to do that, that meant he really nailed it well.
Yeah, I think he has. I think his writing is really good, and he was really inspired by Salad Fingers. He wanted to do like crazy weird stuff like that.
Yeah,
Um,
but with the interface, chapter 3, the one where you have to go around and certain things will trigger stuff and all that.
hmm
Now, I'm pretty sure you've heard a lot of people, especially those who are trying to get the best ending. That's one of those moments where they're like, yeah, that like always
hmm
throws them off. When you were working out, how much of that portion did you work on while doing the interface? Was it just simply, oh, come up with these color bars and everything, or
No,
was that no?
it was just the general. I just coded an interface that he then continued
Oh,
to
okay.
work on.
I
So
didn't, I didn't, I didn't know how it worked, so that's why I
no,
was
no, no,
asking.
it's okay. He just wanted like a control scheme essentially, thus an
Hmm.
interface. So
Okay, okay. I was thinking about the bar and everything, that part of the interface.
yeah, so how he did that part is purely him. I will not take fault for that.
Okay, all right. That explains. But yeah, so you worked. Like you said, you helped out with Downfall and all that, and then there was another game that was under Wormwood. Until
I
what is it?
have you.
Yeah, until I
Until I
have
have.
you. How was that?
Well, that was a weird project. Not gonna lie. I wanted to do um, a time traveling set. Oh, not time traveling, but I wanted to do like a hub focused like game that progresses the story through the hub, and I
Hmm.
wanted to do a cyberpunk game. And it's really funny because that game, minus the awful controls it has, it's really very super close to Katana Zero, who came out like
Oh yeah.
yeah, they're very similar. Like there's both like memory, erasure. We
Hmm.
have very close influences. Like I don't think they stole from the game. It's
No,
like
no, I don't know. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows?
I mean I'd be flattered, but I don't think they did. But no, no, it's like I was very inspired by Hotline Miami, which also
Oh
they
yeah.
were. Yep. I was also very inspired by the hub that Metal Gear Solid 5 had, and I
Hmm.
wanted to use that where they progresses the story through that, and they also had the same idea. I was also very inspired by Ghost in the Shell, which
Oh
essentially
yeah.
said two stories. One story was told by the news, which was the fake one, and one was the one that the characters, um, lived through. So I
Hmm.
wanted to do that parallel.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, the big issue with Until I Have You is that it was made A in AGS, B it was a platformer, and I've never done platformers before, so it was the
Hmm.
controls were very problematic. Like that's the
Oh
biggest
yeah,
issue.
trust me. I mean, if you ever look at something like Yahtzee's 12, 13, even that one trying to get a cinematic platformer to get to work on it was still
Yeah,
yeah. So I can imagine how that was for you.
yeah, no, it was a lot of work. It ended up being okay, but I think a lot of the problems like plagued the game throughout, and it was difficult to readjust the entire game to fix the problems. There was a lot of effort, of course, put in Until I Have You by me and Andrea Ferrara, who did the artwork. It just sucks that the basic thing that you go for a platformer, which is controls, is the most problematic one. So I
Hmm.
think it disables players from kind of enjoying and playing the game a bit. But I'm not regretting it. It was a good
Right, right.
learning. It was a good learning thing for me. I just kind of regret that it didn't end up being as good as I hoped it would be. Let's go for that.
I understand. I understand. But yeah, it was but so back to with Strangeland. How
Hmm.
was it then like with some of the other actors? Like finding out someone like Eggman himself, Mike Pollock was involved. How was that?
Oh, well, it's funny because we can't figure out a good clown voice, and we have a bunch of voices, and then Mike Pollock's voice audition comes along, and I mean, Mark was agnostic. He was like, I'm okay with whatever. Vic
Mm-hmm.
didn't have a specific thing, and I didn't have a specific thing either. So Dave was like, okay, we're going with Mike Pollock, and then I was talking to him on Discord, and well, typing rather, but he said, the guy that's doing your clown, he's Dr. Eggman, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay. He goes, oh, I've worked with him before. He's a cool guy.
Oh, you have worked with him. What did you work with him on? Or Dave saying that? Did you?
Dave had,
Oh, gotcha.
Dave,
Yep. He has. Right, right. But yeah,
yeah,
and
he has.
yeah, because yeah, you hear just when you just know him as Eggman for so long. Like, but I mean, he's done other roles, but that's like the one thing he's known for. But then you hear him doing something like an evil clown, you're like,
Yeah,
dang.
yeah, that's really shaped for him. I feel.
Hmm.
It's really a role shaped for him. In general, our voice acting, I feel, is really great. Like everyone fits their roles. I've told them that when we had our launch party, that I'm really proud and happy
Hmm.
for everyone, doing their roles. And I wish we had more for other people and for them too. Like most of these lines, like most of the lines are Abe, unfortunately. Not that
Right.
it's bad that it's Abe, but it's bad
Well,
that
right.
you know
So, do you have any upcoming games that you're free to talk about or anything? Are you taking some time off or?
Oh, I wish. I wish for the time off. Vacations, do they exist? I don't know. I don't know about that. But as for games I'm working on Carbon Flesh, which is a
Ooh,
3D game, thankfully made in Unity with a
nice.
Greek YouTuber. We've been
Hmm.
working at it during Strangelands like last year, and it's probably gonna be like 2 years till that completes.
All right.
Um, it's a game. It's a prison train wagon simulator
Oh,
Cthulhu. It's
yep,
hard to
yep.
describe, but it's very adventure like, and it's very like open ended in a sense. There's a lot of
Is it
mechanics
kind of
in the
like you
game.
say a train and wagon? What is that like Oregon Trail or something? Or
No. You're imprisoned in a
oh,
train, but
oh,
yeah, you're imprisoned in a train that's going to a certain destination.
mm,
So there's a lot of things involved into that. It's a hard game to describe. I would say the best description I can give it is the room, like the games, the room.
right. Oh, I love those room games. I love those
Yeah.
games. Really wish they didn't do the VR ones because I don't have a VR headset. It's like, oh, really?
Yeah, that'd be nice. But I would say it's like the room, but cyberpunk combined with
Ooh,
like resource management. It's kind
nice.
of
Now, so is it going to be a first-person point of view game?
Yeah. I think it's gonna be that way. Like we haven't decided on that, but right now it's first person. We haven't decided
Hmm.
if we're gonna put a character that you see in
Hmm.
that view, or that we're
Right,
gonna
right. You're
let it
still
let.
working on it. You're still working on it. Right.
Yeah,
Are there any other games, or is that just
yeah,
the one
yeah.
taking all your time?
Victor is working on Trenchmouth, which is a 1940, no, 19, like for First World War based, I think, adventure game.
Ooh.
As far as I know, he's working on. Yeah, that sounds really interesting. He's working on that.
Hmm.
Mark is trying for the last decade to finish, and Victor, of course, helping with that,
Hmm.
trying to finish Fallen Gods, which is I don't know
I
what the
think I've
game
heard
is
about.
about.
I think I've heard that mentioned once or twice before.
Yeah, Fallen Gods, hopefully coming sometime this distant future. It's in Unity,
Yeah,
as
yeah,
far
I've
as I
seen.
know.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, that's where I saw. I saw it on Steam recently. Like when I was looking up stuff, it was like, oh yeah.
Yeah. So Fallen Gods, but and for me, we're finishing up the Mac port of Strangeland shortly, hopefully before the end of August.
Hmm.
Hopefully that goes well, and the testing of that goes well, and maybe there will be a flipped switch somewhere along the lines. Wink, wink.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And then, as far as with someone like with Dave, he has a bunch of plates spinning, of course.
Dave is working on Old Skies, as I know. That's
Hmm.
taken a while. He's also working on Nighthawks with
Yep.
Richard Cobbett, and
Hmm.
Ben, of course, Ben
Right.
304, or Ben Chandler, as
Yep.
the universe knows him. But I'd always known
Hmm.
him as Ben 304. So
Yep. Yep. Oh, I know him as both. I know him as both.
yeah, so yeah, that's nice.
Hmm.
That's happening. I think very soon. Nighthawks.
Oh,
I know
oh,
there's
I
a
hope.
beta testing. Yeah, there's beta testing
Yep,
happening
because
right
that was
now.
supposed to be a 3D in Unity, and then he decided, oh, let's go AGS instead because he just doesn't want to get away from
Hmm.
AGS,
Hmm.
from what I understand.
No, not Nighthawks is in Unity,
No,
but
no, no. I was talking about Old Skies. I was talking
Old
about Old
Skies,
Sky.
yeah, Old Skies is in AGS, yeah,
But I'm saying
which
that
is
one was
really,
supposed to be in Unity, like the game jam.
yeah. He did make that in Unity, which
Yeah.
I mean, Dave is a creature of habit,
Mm-hmm.
and I think working with Unity, there are things he doesn't know how to do, but
Fair
and
enough.
that scares him, and that is also financially risky, I think, and
Oh
I
yeah,
get that,
definitely.
and I think Unavowed is a phenomenal game, like, and it has sold very well as far as I know. I
Hmm.
don't know exact numbers, but
That
it
really
went
put
really well.
Watch Eye on the map even more so than any of the other games.
Yeah, it put Wajidai out there. Like a lot of people know Wajidai for three things as far as I know. Like it's Primoria, it's
Gem.
Unavowed, and it's Blackwell. And
Yep.
like those are the three major things. Like Gemini Rue unfortunately
It was
should
at
have been.
first. It was at first, but then it kind
It
of
was
fell
the
off.
first. Yeah, I think the thing people need to kind of understand is that out of all the developers Dave has worked with, besides Wormwood Studios, us essentially, like all the other developers kind of stopped developing games.
Yeah.
So it's like Dave, holding a contract, of course, but it's not
Oh
his
yeah.
game. What can he say about Gemini Rue that he didn't create? Like it's under
Mm-hmm.
his wing, and he knows the game, and you know, it's. I think it's the most important Wajidai game, definitely, because that's the one that put Wajidai out there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but a lot of people, know Blackwell because it's like, oh, I played on Avowed. What should I
Oh yeah.
play next? Oh, this guy made Blackwell. It's on the same
And it's
universe.
connected. They're connected.
Yeah, they are connect. Oh my god, it's awesome. Just
Oh
I
yeah, I
wish.
love that, especially when the moment Joey, what happened to Joey in the final game, I knew the little girl was. Once we found out about how it works,
Yeah,
it was so obvious she was going to be the next one. But I didn't expect that would be her and Unavowed.
yep. I think that's awesome that it's connected, and I think it's a great thing for games. There's another hint. I think that Mandala says that they found a medium
Mm-hmm.
that's working solo, and
Mm-hmm.
she's able to, like, connect with the dead, but only mediums can do that. So I think
Right.
it's awesome that it has that, and I think they really puts a lot of effort
But he
in his
expanded
game.
the world too, though. That's what I really like was he
Yeah,
expanded the world beyond just, but without having it be like a side effect of what happened in Blackwell. I was like, oh no, this has always been happening. It's just that Rosa never knew about it,
Mm-hmm.
which I like.
Yeah, I like that too, and I think and about playing it now on a specific platform for testing, of course,
Hmm.
it has been really awesome. Actually, the second time I was really critical about it the first time.
Hmm.
I did play as a female, and I played like as an actor, I think. But now I'm playing the male bartender, and I'm loving it. I don't know
Yep,
why.
I played as the female cop.
Yeah, I played female actor, I think, but I didn't like that part a lot. I didn't like
Yeah.
that. But the bartender seems to be awesome, and I want to try more. Actually, I want to try the rest of the
Oh yeah, I love that
story.
the Dragon Age origin aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
That was clever, even though he kind of, if I remember the commentaries right, it said he threw that in near the last second.
Yeah, he actually has said that he came up with it from Dragon Age Origins.
Yep, but he
Like,
came up with
I
it
mean,
like within the last year or so. So it's like just throw it, toss it in. Which, if that's the case, I couldn't tell.
yeah, I can't tell that either. Actually, it feels like this is how he started the game from the get-go. It doesn't feel the other
Hmm.
way around. That this is like a
Yep.
part that he added.
Now with the
Um,
future, with adventure games and their future, what do you stand? Where do you stand on? I mean, obviously you had Telltale holding the torch, and now they're quasi coming back, kind of, sort of, and things like that. But of course, you have Wajidai and all that. But
yeah.
where do you stand on the future of adventure game?
If I'm being honest, I think, and this is gonna sound like, oh yeah, let's praise Dave once more, but
That's all right.
I think, I think Dave really understands the genre, like in a sense that he understands the market, like what people want, but
Hmm.
without insulting the people that have loved these games. Like he
Right.
knows how to transpose between a casual game and an adventure game in a good way. Like Unavowed has been loved by so many people, and it's like a
Hmm.
very dialogue based adventure. It's not a purebred adventure game, but not a lot of people like are like, this is not an adventure game, I hate
Oh
this. Like,
yeah,
no,
yeah. It's
nobody
that
says that.
it straddles the line.
Yeah, and I think Old Skies is gonna play along that side. I think they really pushes forward to better stories than focusing on puzzles, and he's like trying to play through the power fantasies. You can make an impact to the story, which I think has been missing a lot from adventure games, and is really present in other games.
Yep. But
And I
with
think
like
old,
again, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go
oh
ahead.
sorry, and I think Old Skies probably goes that way. And I know Nighthawks is. I don't know. I
Hmm.
haven't played Nighthawks to be a judge of that, but
Right.
that's what I think.
Now, but with something like Telltale, would you say Telltale was one of those cases of, like, yeah, it was pretty much an interactive movie. It was like, yeah, you walked around, you did some puzzles, but it was more, and the fact that it did have that falseness as far as saying your choices matter, and it's like, yeah, but once you figure out that the tree, the past tree and everything, you didn't realize, oh, it's not that much. Like, do you think Telltale helped? Do you think it hurt in the long run, adventure games?
I think Telltale really, really helped adventure games, especially with Walking Dead, and especially with like Phoenix, not Phoenix, The Wolf Among Us. Is that
Yeah. Oh,
Telltale
yeah,
or not?
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Wolf
okay.
Among
All right.
Us.
Yeah, but I think the big problem is that they I don't know how they flopped having these games, like how they flopped
They
commercially.
put in too much for paying for IPs and did not update their engine or anything like that. And they just thought, let's just stick with the Walking Dead formula to their detriment. They basically just they didn't realize that they needed to keep repairing and patching up the boat to keep it afloat like you always do with the studio. Instead, they realized like, oh, it's fine as it is. We don't need to do any updates, and slowly sank as they added more weight
Really?
on top of them.
That surprised me because all these games have sold miraculously well. Like all of these have sold like millions. I don't know how they managed to
Again,
fail
but
with that.
when you look at stuff, you have Batman, you have Guardians of the Galaxy, you have Minecraft, you
Oh,
have
that's when they
Fable.
flopped. Yes, you're right. Yeah, and
Yeah,
they
because
opened up
it's how
too
much
many,
they
I
put
think.
in there. It wasn't enough to cover all of their costs for the IPs.
Yeah. Game of
So,
Thrones, I think, had one.
oh, that
Didn't
was huge, especially getting the actors involved.
yeah.
So again, they were bleeding. Basically, that's what I'm saying. They didn't manage the boat, so the boat was basically just getting old, so it was starting to sink. And then they added the weight of the
On
IP
top of that,
costs.
yeah, yeah. So
So
no,
that's
now it
how.
makes sense. I'm surprised they survived that long.
Yeah,
They
I know
really opened
exactly.
up. They really opened up their market. They shouldn't have,
Yep.
not in that extent. They should have,
Yeah,
but
because when you have something
slower.
like Sam and Max, oh, that's cheap. That is a cheap IP. Back to the
Hmm.
Future, relatively cheap because there's no big movie going on. But when you have stuff that's
Hmm.
getting big, like Guardians and Game of Thrones and all that,
Minecraft, essentially, yeah.
Minecraft, yeah, it was just like now Minecraft. They also had that deal with Netflix, but who knows how much that helped them out.
Yeah, probably not enough. They probably
R- Overdid
overreached.
it. But
Yeah.
again, but I do think that Telltale it both helped, but it did hurt it as far as how again they just kept it repetitive and everything, and how what made it their shining example of your choices matter ended up being the case where like, oh, you say that, but we know it's not true.
Yeah, I think they use as, I mean, a lot of games use that as a selling point.
Hmm.
I think what really hurt adventure games from Telltale is that they show, hey, look, this company was making adventure games, and look, they sold really well, and then they flopped, and they,
Hmm.
became extinct. But I think um, like studios that and the Delic did the same thing essentially. They
Hmm.
opened up too much. But I think like Annapurna is doing a really good job on interactive fiction, where their
Hmm.
games are like very much like movies essentially.
Yep.
I do love What Remains of Edith Finch. I think it's a phenomenal
Oh yeah,
game.
oh yeah, basically the walking simulator game. But the funny thing is, I do think walking simulators have is an interesting take on adventure games.
Yeah, it's a different game, of course. Like it's not an
Hmm.
adventure game. There's not much
Right.
puzzle involved, but it's like it works like a Sunday afternoon experience. You buy the
Oh
game, you
yeah,
spend a good
like
afternoon.
Gone
You're like,
Home.
yeah, you're like, okay, this is great.
Yep.
I
Then you
think
have Yep. Sorry.
for
Go ahead.
that, it's no, sorry, I'm interrupting you all the time.
No, no,
But
no. I'm also the one cutting you off too. I was gonna say what.
no,
Then you
no,
have
no,
stuff
no,
like
no
Life is
fight.
Strange, for example. That's an interesting adventure game. That's kind of
Yeah,
hard to say if it's an adventure game. Is it a? It's not an action adventure game, but at the same time, the way it handles stuff is one of those like, how do you describe it?
I think it's very close to interactive fiction with puzzle elements. I think it is the better choice. I think it's a very dialogue based game. And also that game also said that everything you do affects everything, but it's
Oh, and
like
it
two
does.
ending choices essentially.
Yep, that's
But that
very
doesn't
true.
negate from a good experience. I enjoyed Life is Strange. I haven't played the sequels and the prequel, but
Right.
it's a great game. Like I
Hmm.
think a lot of people are like Life is Strange, stupid. It's like, but deep down they like it. Like I think it's a
Hmm.
great game. I've played it. I
Oh
had
yeah.
fun with it. There's nothing wrong with accepting that.
Yep. The only downside I'm going to give it though is that you have the remaster coming up. You're going to have to buy them again.
Yep. I
It's
mean, I'm
like
not.
what? Really? Come on! It's just a remaster. You're just fine tuning the graphics. Give that to us for free if we already own it. Come on!
Hmm.
I do not want to pay no $60 for that and the new game all at once. No, thank you.
Yeah, no, I think I mean, that sounds like a cash grab essentially.
Yep.
Kind of a cash grab. I understand like
Mm,
let's put it for next gen consoles and all that.
yep. Especially when you have a new one coming out.
But I think from a business standpoint, like, it makes sense that they want to do that for the
Yeah,
people
but at
that
least give
want to
people a
play that.
discount if you own it.
Yeah, it would be nice if they actually discounted that for the people that own it, you
Yep.
know.
Like I'm curious on what Cassie Rain's going to do with their director's cut, if that's going to be discounted or not. I'm not
I think
expecting
it
a.
is. I
Yeah,
think it's 50% off if you own the
good.
original game. As
That's
far
good.
as I
That's
know, I
good.
think that's the case with Raw Fury. I think, yeah, that's the publisher.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Because I know that all Dave did there was the helping with the voice acting.
yeah, Dave did the voices for that and Whispers of the Machine
Hmm.
too. Yeah, I think Kathy Rain is doing a good thing doing director's cut. I think that's a good thing for
Yeah,
Kathy Rain.
especially when it's been taking so long to get this follow up out. I think doing a director's cut is a good way to revigor interest.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, it's really also very difficult to address a game. You
Hmm.
know, saying do we really need a director's cut? Like, I mean, we've always thought about this for Primoria. Do we need a director's cut? Should we do a
Mm,
director's cut?
it depends on the game. And it depends on how much you might like lingering stuff that weren't answered that you don't want to just wait for the sequel to answer.
Yeah,
Because
I
there are
think.
some games that do that, and then it ends up being, oh, you ended up tagging this into the sequel when you could have done it then.
Yeah, definitely. I think for Cathy Rain it makes sense because I feel like the original game was okay. This is gonna sound awful that I'm saying this, but I don't mean it in that negative light. Like it was kind of unpolished. Like not everything was
Oh no,
up.
I agree. It felt a bit unpolished. It felt good, but not spectacular. And I
It
think
felt like
the
a diamond in the rough, and I think
yeah,
that's and I think a director's cut essentially shows that
give it the
this is what
polish.
we could have done. This is what we could have done. With
Yep.
Primoria, I feel the same could be the same, could be applied to us. But I think like that awful resolution of 320 by 200
Oh yeah.
kind of hides everything, and you're like, oh, I'm imagining this vast world which probably doesn't exist, but who
I know. I
knows?
mean, I'll be honest. There are some times where it's a little too muddy, but that's the worst criticism I'm giving it. It's that there are times where the coloring is a bit too, like I said, dirty looking, and
Brownie,
I can't brownie. Yeah, I cannot
yeah,
tell what's going on. But that's
yeah.
my only complaint.
Victor does love his very one color
There are
palette.
certain words I would have used to just as a joking descriptive, as a joke, not as an insult. But you probably know what I mean by that. We know other brown things, but
Yeah, it
I
looks
say that
kind
as
of
a joke. I
shitty.
say that as a joke. Yeah, I say that as a joke. I say that as a joke, not as an insult.
No, I agree with that, and I think Victor agrees with that in a sense. It just came out. I think it's very natural for that world to
Mhm.
be very brown, and I think it's kind of
Oh yeah,
annoying that it's that brown, of
yeah. It's
course.
that rustiness. It's the rustiness of it.
Yeah, and once you get out of the dunes, you're like back in Metropole, and you're like, oh, look at the city of glass and light. Oh my God, I can quote the entire game.
I'm sorry. I'm always going to stick to "I'm a floating bomb." That is always going to be one of my
Yeah.
favorite lines.
Yeah, and I think it's awesome that people are like, judging Crispin like as this annoying sidekick, which I understand, and I can see, how.
Oh yeah, he's that right blend though of that annoying that you're remembering, but you do care for him though. It's not that annoying where you're like, it's not Jar Jar annoying. Where like, get him out of here. It's more like, oh, but like yeah, Crispin, we get it, we get it. But then once he's gone, you're like,
Oh, Crispin's gone.
oh.
It's like so silent when he's gone.
Yeah, exactly. It's once it happens so fast. You're like,
Yeah,
especially when you're expecting an explosion, not much of an explosion. So you're like, wait, uh, uh,
yeah. I
damn.
think I think the silence is really deafening when Crispin is gone. And the funny thing about that is that what I like about Crispin essentially is that, you know, every other character I think is very flawed in their
Hmm.
moral ethic code in the game. Like, Horatio
Oh
is
yeah.
like very lost, and he's like, what, how does that even matter? It doesn't matter. We're just here to preserve this world. And Clarity, of course, makes her own mistakes,
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah.
but Crispin doesn't have anything, to give the world but his voice. Like, he doesn't have hands, but the one time,
Not to the end, not to the golden ending.
yeah, he doesn't have them. But the one time he has one action besides, snarky remarks, which is, to save his friend, even if it's by doing, the sacrifice, he doesn't hesitate. He's
Oh
not
no,
like,
not at
I
all.
shouldn't do it. It's like, the one
No,
time
yeah,
he
without
has
saying,
one action, he just does it, and I think that makes him a better character than the entire universe of Primoria combined.
I would agree with that because it's just like he is the pure essence, despite the
Yeah,
snark. Despite the snark is basically that's just I always looked at that was just part of his programming. He was programmed to be that snarky.
yeah, and I think it helps Horatio keep his sanity essentially.
Oh yeah, because I think Horatio, if he had someone that was more like him or more intellectual, he wouldn't have lasted. I think the snark is what keeps him on his toes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think essentially it keeps Horatio doing what he's doing and helping him think better, because you have somebody that is intellectually lesser, I guess. Like,
Hmm.
no offense to Crispin, who I
Oh yeah,
love.
oh no, I'm pretty sure even Chris would be like, None taken. If anything, I blame this guy for giving me my
Yeah,
intellect.
probably he'd
He
say
would
that.
just throw it right back at Horatio. He'd be like, if anything, I blame this guy.
Yeah, I mean, if you could have coded me better, but that's the thing. It's
Exactly.
like, Crispin does what he does with what he has,
Hmm.
and I think he's doing a fine job with what he has been provided.
Yep.
Um, and I think he's more ethically correct than a big majority of the characters in Primoria who are like, under this skewed version of reality, like Metropole, who thinks,
I think it
progress
also
is
helps he's one of
everything.
the most newest built compared to everyone else who's been just stuck in there going in circles, figuratively speaking.
Yeah, and I think Crispin essentially gets out of the loop
Well,
in
yeah,
it.
because he was built out of the loop. That was the point. He was built out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Well, gotta start wrapping up. Thank you again so much, James. I wouldn't mind having you back on again to talk more adventure game
Oh,
stuff.
I wouldn't mind it at all. I had a wonderful time. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yep.
it's 1 a.m. here, but that's okay.
Ah.
It's
Oh,
it's it's
okay. Okay.
it's the old Greek times. That's okay.
Gotcha. All right, all right. But yeah, again, thank you so much. And thank you, anyone who's still here and anyone who's watching this at a later date. And good luck with all of your future work. And I wish you the best.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
No problem. Take care, everyone.